I love your little.
Hello, beautiful, and welcome to Mom's Talk Sex podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. I have the beautiful Kerry here with me today, and our conversation is going to be extra juicy. So be prepared. So, hi, Kerry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good. We're doing great. So, how about you tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do in the world?
Okay, so I'm a mother, a shaman, and author of My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain. And my book is my memoir. It's how I healed from my childhood trauma. And I go over, it's traumatic. There's a suicide attempt, but then I also share how from my, deepest wound, I found my most profound wisdom. And I also share how I attracted six men into my life. And even though I didn't go on a date with them, I from home talked to their soul and had a full relationship, if you know what I mean. And how they helped me see myself and where I had wounds and where I could improve. And so in my book, I call them my heroes. And they're prominent men like Justin Waller and his best friend, Andrew Tate, and two fire academy instructors. And then my guy from my childhood, who's currently the head of global security from GoDaddy. So it's a little juicy. It's a little juicy.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm super intrigued by now. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that. What do you mean that you summoned six men that
Oh,
weren't?
how did that happen? Right.
Yeah, like
Okay.
what does that look like on your world for those of
Yeah.
us that aren't
Excellent
deep into
question.
the show?
So I attempted suicide in April of 2019. My brain told me my youngest daughter has an eating disorder, and I went to the first therapy session there. And generally, what happened was everyone blamed me for her eating disorder, and I'm like, I don't live in a vacuum. It's a family issue. Anyway, I came home. My brain told me my kids would be better off with a dead mother than a live one. So I took all the medications that I had, and but luckily, my older daughter saved me the next morning. So later that year, I had an opportunity to change gyms and I went to a yoga studio for the first time and tried hot yoga. And I was like, hot yoga. And then I did it like, oh, okay. You know, and I met my first hero that first night. So I didn't choose the class. I didn't choose where I sat. So they sat me in the front. And of course, he happened to be sitting right behind me. And so we had our first conversation, but I just like shut down in fear and I didn't talk to him again for like a little over a year. But then that conversation is when at yoga that I had 35 years of debilitating lower back pain because of my childhood trauma. I had repressed my femininity, which included my sexuality. And so it was expressing itself through very painful lower back pain. And in that moment, I like embraced my feminine energy and, kind of like engaged in this fun conversation, kind of sexy conversation. And even we spoke a little Hebrew because my ex-husband's Israeli and he's Jewish and speaks Hebrew. So it's like, it was this whole moment. Okay, yeah. So then I was like, and then we talked after class. I'm like, oh my gosh, my lower back pain's gone. And that's how it got started. So three of the men, him, Tim in the book, and then the two fire academy instructors, I met at yoga, would talk to them at yoga, and then I would go home. And all souls are constantly talking to each other. There's proof now that we all have energy bodies. All of our energy bodies communicate through our hearts. Like, we see evidence of it when a dog on a door camera gets excited 1 minute every day before his owner comes home. We all have this. So this is what I'm talking about. But my gifts are more extensive, and so I can have a full conversation and relationships and like handle problems this way. And since I had so many problems, like, I had attempted suicide, right? I attracted in men who had, equal amount of problems.
Yeah.
So it kept me safe, but it allowed me to explore myself sexually as well, which I think, is kind of here because that I don't know how I would have done that if I had to like they could touch me physically. I like needed to like fantasize about them and connect that way. And that's about as much as I could handle because of my trauma.
And it's interesting because you said that you had children, right? When you actually tried to commit suicide, committed suicide.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that means that you've already had sexual experiences, even
Yes.
though you experienced the trauma. So when did that
Yeah.
kind of like, you know, because it's like, okay, so I have these experiences here without dealing with the trauma. and then the trauma
Mm.
came up after. Like, how was that for you?
So like how's the sex like it's totally different. Like I can, express myself and because sex is also it's a healing moment, right? It's a bonding, it's an opening, it's an exploration moment, it's a rupture and repair moment. I mean, a makeup sex, right? And if I can and I had that was one of the main ways that I learned that my femininity fuels their masculinity. So if I can, and I'm the energy center, so I have to submit my energy to erect, their masculine energy, right? And so when I learn to open, the more I could open myself emotionally, the more pleasure I had, the more engaged I was, the more excited I was, the more feminine I felt. Like it was like instrumental to healing all the wounds in my womb, which were extensive. And so, I mean, I remember like the first sexual experience that I remembered, it was when I was 16. It was like, oh, I'm 16. Oh, it's time to have sex now. Like that's how it was. Oh, I got to go on the pill. And who was the guy? So, my guy from my childhood, he was ASB president, but I was terrified of him and I wouldn't let him get close to me in high school. So what did I go for? A guy who, had been in juvie and was a drug dealer and was 18.
Yeah.
So I didn't value myself, and I had two sexual partners in high school. And I got some venereal diseases in college. I was sexually abused in college, and then I was given herpes, and so that was really painful. But I had three kids, healthy kids with natural births, no problem. And I haven't had that since my older daughter was born, so that's 24 years. But it was painful, like hard to walk, painful with the blisters. And I got through graduate school and kids but it was like I kind of felt like, is my whole life going to be the valley of darkness? Is I almost died after my second child was born because I didn't care for myself. I didn't value my femininity. I didn't value
Yeah.
myself. I went back to work and I got bacterial pneumonia and spent 2 weeks on a ventilator in ICU because I couldn't value that I'm a new mom with a young like with two kids now. And so that like repression of my femininity it's just kind of shaped my whole life. And now the
So that wake
experience.
up call was the actual yoga, hot yoga. That was the
Well,
wake up call.
well, the wake up call, the first wake up call would happen when I was 45, my 45th birthday. My mom passed away on my 45th birthday. And then my
Oh,
intuition told me it's time to accept your psychic gifts and heal your childhood trauma. And she came through to me right after in a dream and thanked me for helping her and not giving her any tubes and giving her the passing that she wanted. And, she chose my birthday to celebrate how special I am because now we have my birthday and then we have her death day. And on a soul level, that's a compliment. I know, like, oh, it's sad, but then it's she was letting go of being the matriarch because I was in her heart and she was an alcoholic.
yeah,
So, then it's hard for me to heal an alcoholic's heart. But then, okay, I'm the matriarch now. I'm allergic to alcohol, so I get hives. Which thank you, body, thank you. And then that was 10 years ago. I started healing, and then I started to learn to surf the waves of life, to go into my pain and out of my pain. So, the suicide attempt was, I went into my pain. But then that was came out Carrie 2.0, and then I was finally ready to address my sexual abuse and my from my childhood. Yeah.
yeah. So, how about you tell us a little bit of what a shaman is?
Okay.
And how did you become that, right? So I'm like, okay, so there's the whole thing and then this.
Yeah, great question. Excellent question. So I've always been really psychic and very perceptive. Know when people are going to call, when things are going to happen, have more prophetic dreams, and my mom was like that. But like I said, she's an alcoholic, so it didn't go anywhere. So on my 45th birthday, the Accept Your Psychic Gifts was basically carry your shaman. And what does a shaman do? Is that we are aware of our ability to create what is called a quantum entanglement between souls because we're all energy bodies. And so we equate, kind of connection with the soul. It doesn't matter, where the soul is. Like with the first guy, Tim, 9 months after we started talking in the fall of 2021, because he's Jewish too, right? And so I helped his dad around Yom Kippur. He would like live at the synagogue at Yom Kippur, okay, for the Day of Atonement. And so I could see that, oh my gosh, his dad is giving me messages to give him, and now his mom is showing up, and oh, his son's talking to me, and his son's cute little face is in front of me. And I was seeing a shaman who was helping me at the time. Oh yeah, that's normal, and you're talking to souls, and this is how okay, let's keep going. And then what really showed me that I know what's up with being a shaman is like I'm accurate, like trust your intuition, Carrie, is a message from his dad for the first time since Yom Kippur came through on Valentine's Day in 2022, and just a message of strength and love. And then 2 days later, his mom, for the first time in 5 months, gave an acceptable message for me to give to him because I was drawing a boundary. I kind of, I was like the sole wife. I kind of stepped in. If you can't talk to the husband, you go to the wife, right? So
Yeah.
people were coming to me. And she said, I love you. And I was like, and I sent him the message. And a week later, I found out that his dad passed away on February 15th, the day after I gave the Valentine's message, and the day before the mom finally opened her heart to her son. And to be like in the middle of family healing of people I've never met, and it's so intimate, and there's a bunch more. I go over it all in the book, but it was just like, this is feminine work, this is inside work. And this is why I really resonate with a Cherokee proverb that says a woman's highest calling is to connect a man to his soul so he can, unite with source. A man's highest calling is to protect a woman so she can walk the earth unharmed. And Cherokee have Jewish DNA, I found out recently. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and I've been connected to that for years, like about 3 or 4 years. I connected that proverb, and then this year I'm doing all this other research, and that came up. I'm like, no, and Druze, they have Jewish and Druze DNA.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yes, that is so crazy. How is that even connected?
I haven't done, but they
Wow.
miracles
So,
abound.
okay, so as a shaman,
Mhm.
right, is it something, so from what I'm understanding from you, is it something that you can learn? This is something you were born with? This is something that you keep developing? Like, what is the process?
When I say shaman, it means that my intuitive skills, my ability to talk to other souls, I'm much more cognizant and aware that I'm capable of it. And so I have much more. So like, and these are like lifetime over lifetime. Our souls, the older the soul that you are, the more kind of skills that you have. That,
Right.
makes sense, right? So because I've developed my kind of high priestess shaman skills over thousands and thousands of years, my soul has now, so in that fall of 2021, I did something, and I told the shaman that I was training with at the time. She's like, oh, that's a Peruvian shamanic thing. I'm like, oh, okay, really? Like, so do I have to know? I didn't even know, it just came out of me.
Yeah.
It just came out of me. And so it's just like the healthy with each man, each successive man, I was more open and more able to tap in quickly and just trust that what I was saying to his soul needed to hear exactly how I was saying it. Like, I felt comfortable calling, the second fire academy instructor, he's fire captain. I call him my captain, and like, and just be like, see how sexy he is, and call him a sexy MF. Like, I just be like, I would go because he was like 6'7", turn out, he's married, but there's that. So, but I had to face the problems in my marriage. So I really had to learn, especially with him, really like final straw taught me the lesson. The universe is a mirror. This is not your man. You have helped him heal and he's helped you heal. Carrie, why did your own marriage end? Why was I unable to forgive, which is a feminine quality, a right brain quality? And it really that it was gnarly, and I saw myself. I had
Yeah.
to look at myself. Yeah. Yeah.
So what does it look now for you, right? What does your relationships look now? What does being connected to your body, what does that look like now?
So what does that look like now? Okay, so a year ago, I was guided to reach out to I call my original hero in my book, Jason Colvin from the head of global security. And so I've been talking to his soul for a year, and we've both been healing through it. And then I unveiled a lot more parts of myself, and that was, I remember with the fire captain, I remember thinking, oh, this is like a final test for my shamanic gifts. And then I had my first enlightenment experience. And then Jason's soul came through clear as day during the enlightenment experience, which was kind of, I hadn't accepted myself. So, um, and so that's what it looks like. And so what happened, like this year, I'm climbing a huge ladder of self-belief. And I published my book in April. And then
Congratulations.
thank you. It was
Mazel.
and so, and so and then around my birthday, which is June 25th, and Jason Colvin's initials JC, I started accepting all the signs and synchronicities that my soul is the same soul as Mary Magdalene, which was like, what? But, I've helped men like Andrew Tate, right? So who am I? And why do I have all these gifts? And this, makes sense, right? And so I started accepting that and diving down deeper into that. And I fully accepted it in September. And you can see on my website, I have a write up and I'm writing a book. Um, and then, we're layers that were onion, right? So the layers, that was a layer. Okay, accept that I'm Mary Magdalene. So I accepted that. And then in September, it was a second coming. Okay, I accepted that it was an enlightenment experience where I shared 6 divine feminine self-love strategies on Shabbat Shuvah, which is the Sabbath of return. And there's a lot of prophecies that in the week of Rosh Hashanah, the new year in 2025, which was the same week as Sabbath of return, that the Messiah would come back. And I was like, okay, wait, is it? Oh, but no one's going to know when or where. And there's no prophecy for Sabbath of return for that Shabbat between the new year and Yom Kippur. But that's when I unveiled my self-love strategies, which is, perfect timing because it's the day of self-reflection, the biggest day of the year. And then I had a huge enlightenment experience the next day. I'm like, oh, so that's what they meant by a covenant written on our hearts that bypasses scripture, because that's also in the Bible. And then no one will know when or where, and there's no prophecy for Sabbath of return. So I had to, obviously I did a lot of research around that. And since then, I found out that there is a gospel of Jesus's wife. And there's a whole book on it now that was published in 2014. And they found an old text from, I think it's like the 3rd or 4th century. So they can carbon date it. And then, so I'm just like, this is, you ask what happens next, right? So, but this is what happens when you're in alignment. It's just like, it's coming out of me and coming out of me and coming out of me. I'm like, yay, And then I wrote the Wisdom of Peace plan, changing the world as an inside job, in honor of the 30th anniversary of Itzhak Rabin's assassination. And my ex-husband and I met in Tibet 2 weeks after my ex-husband Amit was in Beijing with Itzhak Rabin for the historic Sino-Israeli meeting. So it's like, I'm not just picking that. And it's interesting that, okay, second coming, 30th anniversary, it's like all aligning, right? And I just say that, we attract what we are. So, Jews attract a lot of hate, and that speaks to their own self-hate. Well, why do they hate themselves? So anyway, I just, I could go on, but like, this is what is like now that I've healed my womb and healed my sexuality, like all of this amazingness is coming out of me because I love myself and I accepted myself and I healed my sexuality and I embraced my femininity and my submissive role and, in the relationship that I fuel the energy. So that was a lot to accept this year. But 10 years of work allowed me to do that. Like that's the payoff of all of the emotional work, all of the wounds that I turned into wisdom, all of the enlightenment experiences, all the why can't I go out with anyone? Why am I home alone? Well, this is why, that I needed to heal myself and so that's how I did it.
I love that so much. And thank you so much for sharing the way you do because the energy of it is so potent. And it's something that a lot of us try to put into words, but I feel like you're just the living proof of what happens when you're so connected to who you came here to be and when you're open to receive any information and go with it and look at it without judgment, which I think is so key because I feel like even women that are more connected and they get these messages and they like, am I crazy? Am I making this
Right,
up? Right? What's
right.
going on with me? And the truth
Yeah.
is like when you're an open channel, you're an open channel. And
Yeah,
when you're connected, you can decipher, okay, is this for me? Is this not for me? And I love everything that you've shared because I feel like it's such a testimony to
thank you.
that power and to that healing.
Thank you.
So if our listeners
Mhm.
want to find more about you, read your books, where can they find this information?
Okay, so my website is kerryblazer.com. Blazer is my maiden name. Bouzaglo is still my legal name, my married name, even though we're divorced. And then Amazon is my book, My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain is my book. So yeah, kerryblazer.com has it all.
I love it. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for being here and sharing your magic. I truly appreciate it.
thank you.
This is what embodied sex looks like. This is what sexual healing looks like. So if you're listening and you're like, this was a little different of a conversation, it
Mhm.
was because it's actually the proof of what happens when you're connected to your body and you do the work and you do the healing. So if you're not there yet and you feel like you have questions, please reach out to us. We would love to support you on your journey to step in and become the highest priestess, shaman, embodiment of your soul. This is what we're here to do. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for listening and tune in with us next week for another juicy interview. Bye.